Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Today we are going to make a card using Lawn Fawn's I Like Cute Moths. Now, these little guys are absolutely adorable. I just love them. We've got the stamp set, the coordinating dies, and the stencil set. We will be using all three today. So I've got some images selected in my Misty, and I am using three of the moths, the lantern, the stars, the moon, and then I also brought in a moon from an older, this is Wild Wolves. I just really like this moon, but I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use. So we are going to go ahead and stamp both to start with. I've got a limited amount of ink colors here. We're starting with Metropolis, and we are just going to stamp our images. Make sure that paper is in the corner because we will heat emboss at the end. And when I saw this stamp set, I kind of wanted to make a Halloween card. So we're going to do a nighttime scene, but it's not technically a Halloween card. You could use it for one, but it's really not. And that is one of my favorite things to do with the Lawn Fawn images. I just love making nighttime scenes. The colors just pop on on a really dark background. So we've got that done. Leave your stamps in there. We're going to get out our stencils and we will start ink blending. So I've got this cute little guy up here. This is a 3-piece stencil set and all of your images are on here. Let's start with Metropolis, and I'm not even going to use a grip mat or anything. I'm just going to hold it down and we will start ink blending. So for their body, I'm using Metropolis, but I'm going to tap off. I don't want it super dark. So I'm just going to come in and I'm actually going to hit a little bit harder on one side than the other. So my left side is going to be a little bit darker. Then we can move on down the stencil and then we've got his little antenna. And we're going to go heavier for that. And I will concentrate a little bit more towards the base so I get the tips of his antenna kind of light. So then we can move down our stencil and here we've got part of his wings. And so for this one on his wings, we are going to start with some sapphire. And I don't want to go too heavy, so I will tap off and we'll just kind of lightly come in there, fill in that area. And then I'm going to come in with a smaller brush and I'm going to highlight at the base of his wings. We'll be doing a lot of highlighting like that just to give more depth and dimension. And that should be pretty good. Then we can move on and you just go down the line with these stencils. They make it so easy. So for my next stencil, we're going to come in with Opulence. And again, I want it pretty light. So I will tap off. We've got that whole area covered. And then I will come in with my smaller brush and I will hit the center of that base. I will also come in a little bit at the bottom. And we're just adding highlight. And then a little bit at the tip of his wings. And that's perfect. Then we've got one more little area here for his dots and his moons. And I will come in with Clementine. Because I wanted this to kind of be like a Halloween card, I knew I needed to use some orange. So I will come in heavy. And he is so cute already. I will go ahead and clean my stencil so I don't get any ink transfer when I start my next moth. And we're just going to repeat the process. I am going to use Metropolis on his body and his antenna. And we'll just line that up. I'll come in light and a little bit heavier on the left so it looks like he's looking into the light. Then we can do his antenna and we'll go heavier. Then we've got some of his wings. And for this portion, I am coming in with sapphire. I want to keep the bodies pretty light. Then we'll bring it down. We've got another little section of his wings, and I will do this in clementine. And again, I will go heavy. Then we've got the larger portion of his wings, and I am going to come in with opulence. And I'm going to keep it pretty light for my first coat, just like that. And then I'll come in with my smaller brush, and I will hit the base of his wings. And then we've got the little dots, and I will color those in with my opulence. Then we've got to find our next little guy, and he is on stencil number 2, and we're just going to repeat the process for their bodies. We're just doing the same thing. I'll do his little antennas. I'm not sure the plural. I guess it would be antennas. And then we'll move down to his wings. And for his wings here, I'm going to come in with my sapphire. I will tap off and try to keep it fairly light. And then my smaller brush, I will highlight. Then we can move on to our next. And I will use clementine. And I want to go really dark on this. I hope everybody is doing well. I just love this little set. And usually I will come up with an idea on my own, and then I will look at other images just so I can make sure that I don't blatantly copy someone's creation. And I did see a couple of the items used that I'll be using today, but my card will look nothing like theirs. So then we've got a little bit more of his wings there, and I will come in with some opulence and darker at the base. So then on our third stencil, we've got our little lantern, and we've got a cutout for our moon. Like I said, I wasn't real sure which moon I wanted to use, so I actually stamped both, and I just want to give that a little bit of shading on the edge. And I also saw a couple images where they highlighted in yellow, so we'll just also give that a little bit of sunshine. And that's it for my moon. I don't have a stencil for the other larger moon, so we'll just kind of wing it. Then we can do our lantern. Let's do our stars first. We'll add a little bit of yellow to our stars. Just a little bit, not a lot. And then we've got our lantern. And I am going to do my lantern in opulence. You know what? Let's change it up. Let's go with sapphire. Then we'll come in and we'll do those little accent pieces. And here I will use some Metropolis. Then we've got the inside of our lantern, and I'm going to use Sunshine. And I didn't even ink up my brush. I had some on there, so that's good. Then we've got the little candle. Let's make our candle opulence since we did our lantern in sapphire. And then we've got our flame, and of course we'll do that in clementine. And those are so cute. Oh my goodness. How many times are we going to say cute today for I like cute moths? And we need to re-stamp our images, and we will use VersaFine and some clear embossing powder. So let's get these inked up. I will add a little bit of powder on here. I may need to do this twice though. I love those purples and the blue. And then that little bit of orange just turns it into almost Halloween. Perfect. Let's add our clear embossing powder. And now we can heat set this. So now we can go ahead and we can die cut our images. Let's bring in our dies, get those lined up, and then we can cut those out. And we have perfect little die cut images. So cute. So now what we need to do is we need to draw a black outline on our images. We could fussy cut these right up to the edge of the embossing, but I prefer to just take a black Copic and outline all our images. And this is my favorite thing to do with Lawn Fawn sets, is to make a nighttime card. I actually did one for Firefly Farm as an example. I did a class for them in June and we used the Highland Cow set, and I did an example to show at the end of my class, and it came out so cute. I'll show you. This was my nighttime card using the Highland cows, and that just came out fabulous. I love nighttime scenes. So cute. So we're just going to continue all the way around and fill in that white area around the die cut. And I will do that for all of my images. So there, we've got all our images outlined. We can push these off to the side. And I need to clean my Copic. I did get ink on me. Now we need to work on our background. So for our background, I am bringing in a piece of, I believe this is Windy from Spellbinders. Everything I use today will be listed and linked in the description below, and we are going to create a background. We're using Sapphire, Stargazer, and Opulence. And actually, I didn't use Stargazer in our first little ink blending session, but I am using it here. And I'll start from the bottom with my Stargazer or Sapphire. It does not need to be perfect. Then I'll bring in some Stargazer. We'll come in from the side, and I'm just kind of doing a third, a third, a third with each color. I want this to be nice and dark, and when you do this, it's easier to start with a piece of blue cardstock rather than white. It just kind of speeds up the process a little, because that is a lot of ink that we are adding to our paper. And I'm just using a piece of paper here to keep my fingers from getting too inky. I think we're probably looking pretty good here. That's nice and dark all the way around. So now I will bring in a stencil, and I've got my Slimline Cloudy stencils. And I know we're making this a nighttime scene, and you can't necessarily see clouds when we're going to have a moon, but you know what? We're going to add some clouds for interest anyway. So I'm just starting at the bottom, and I'll be using the same colors that I used in each section. So here we've got Sapphire. Now I've got Stargazer, and I'll just move that up a little bit. And then we've got Opulence. And like I said, I know you're not going to be able to see the clouds at nighttime per se with a moon shining, but it's all pretend anyways, right? So we've got our background, and I am really making a mess of my hands today, but that's okay. So let's bring in our other pieces. For our other pieces, I've got the Spooky Forest backdrop, and I cut that out of Spellbinders Raven. And I also cut 2 of the tombstones out of the black. Then for my little hill area, I cut 2 pieces using one of my, I know these are all Lawn Fawn. I think it's the wavy stitched hillside border. I'm not sure, but I will have it listed. And then I've also got 1 frame that I cut from the reversed stitched scalloped rectangle windows. And we are going to use these to build our scene. Let's start by figuring out how we want our little hills here and exactly how far down we want them. And actually, that probably looks pretty good. So let's get those glued down, and I will just use liquid glue to attach my hills. So now we need to add our Spooky Forest background, and I am going to use black foam tape, and I will also add it to my reversed stitched scalloped rectangle. So I've got foam tape on both pieces. We need to add our spooky backdrop first, but let's bring in our lantern. And I had some black twine in my stash. I honestly don't know where I got it, but I will see what I can find that is similar. I'm going to pop that through the front, and then I will put a piece of black foam tape on there to hold that in place. Then I can kind of decide where I want this on my background. I will tuck that underneath and I will have my foam tape hold that in place. So I will take the release paper off and I will pick that up. Then I can trim that off, and now we can add our spooky backdrop. Then we can remove the release paper on our lantern and just make sure that it hangs nicely. Then we can bring in our reverse stitched scalloped rectangle, get the release papers off of that, and get that placed. And now we can create our scene. So I am a little prepared. I've got my tombstones that I cut out earlier that I talked about, and I stamped "Flying by to Say," and that came from our stamp set. And I also stamped a couple extra stars here. And then my little light rays for my lantern, I white heat embossed those on black. So let's figure out where to put our cute little tombstones here. And I think we'll just place them like that. And I will add those with liquid glue. I did add my "Flying by to Say" with foam tape. I just wanted a little bit more dimension in there. Then I've got my cute little moths, and I've got black foam tape behind each of those. And then for my moon, I need to decide which moon I like best. So I think I've made a decision. I really like this moon that came with the Wild Wolves set, but we're going to go with the moon that came with the set. So let me get some liquid glue back there. Now we can add our light rays that go on our lantern. So I went ahead and I added my stars with some liquid glue, and now we just need to figure out a sentiment. So I knew I wanted it to kind of look like a Halloween card, but I don't know if I wanted to say "Happy Halloween." I think I would rather have it say "You're wicked cute," and we'll just place that down here on our tombstones. And that sentiment actually came from an old Spellbinders set. This is Halloween icons, and I already had a whole bunch of pre-made sentiments, so I just pulled that out of there. And that card is done. That came out so cute. I just love it. I added my sentiment with some foam tape, and these little moths are even cuter than I had anticipated. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please leave me a comment. Please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.